Welcome to Coffee Commerce. My name is Sean Ramett, and I'm the grandson of a coffee farmer from Guyana, South America. On Coffee Commerce, we talk about the stories behind coffee as they relate to ideas, commerce, and society. Since coffee came into being established not only as a beverage of choice, but also as a place to go and exchange ideas, thoughts, and opinions, coffee houses became a backdrop to change. We see this first in the Ottoman Empire. This will also become evident in the French revolutions, which we'll talk about later. In Europe, this concept of being alert and sober would lead to new waves of thought and ideas. As mentioned before, this would not be popular with the ruling class of the day. We mentioned that during the Enlightenment, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Isaac Newton could be found talking philosophy over coffee. In fact, it is in the coffee houses that their ideas and theories start to form. Not just ideas and theories about science and philosophy, but also about politics too. History brews with ideas sparked over hot cups of Java. So let's talk about some of them. Coffee houses provided an ideal venue to gather, socialize, and share ideas. Coffee's affordability and flat structure, meaning anyone could come in and order a cup of coffee, eroded centuries of social norms which kept groups and classes of people separated based on who you were or how you were born, your last name, which city you were born in, what culture you were from. Not everyone embraced this change. In 1633, Sultan Murad IV decreed the consumption of coffee was a capital offense. Murad IV's brother and uncle had been killed by the Janissaries. The Janissaries were like an infantry. They were members of the elite unit that formed the Ottoman Sultan's household troops. It was these Janissaries that were known to frequent cafes in Istanbul. The Sultan had almost been obsessed with catching coffee drinkers in the act. He allegedly disguised himself as a commoner and ventured through the streets of Istanbul. It was said that he would decapitate offenders with his 100-pound broadsword. This pushed coffee lovers further to rebel against the administration of the day. Ottoman sultans issued and reversed coffee house bans well into the 18th century. This in a hope to prevent the gathering of dissidents. But quite the opposite was happening. By this time, coffee houses had already caught on in Europe. Similarly, the coffee house concept and their patrons were striking fear into the hearts of monarchs in Europe. This break from tradition was probably most pronounced in the British culture. It was intensely hierarchical and structured. The notion of one going and sitting next to someone as an equal was foreign, and some would even say radical. British coffee houses were defined by their communal tables covered with newspapers and pamphlets. Here patrons would gather to read, discuss, share, even write the news. King Charles II's father, Charles I, was beheaded during the English Civil War in the mid-17th century. When Charles II returned to the throne, he was noticeably paranoid about his subjects gathering to talk politics. Things were different in England now. This change was not always favorable to Charles II. On June 12, 1672, Charles II issued a proclamation to restrain the spread of false news and the licentious talking of matters of the state and government. It went on to say, men have assumed to themselves the liberty not only in coffee houses, but in other places of meeting, both public and private, to censure and defame the proceedings of the state by speaking evil of things they understand not. To combat this clear and present danger, Secretary of State Sir Joseph Williamson embedded a network of spies in London coffee houses. Finally, in December 1675, Charles II would even issue a decree for the closure of all coffee houses in London. But like in the Ottoman Empire, the British monarchy saw an uprising against it on this proclamation. This ban lasted just 11 days. The people had spoken, and coffee was here to stay. There are other areas in Europe that experienced great uprisings and revolutions, but we'll talk more about that over another cup of coffee. Thank you.